Is one permitted to use toothbrush and toothpaste on Shabbat? What about mouthwash? And what about dental floss? Well, brushing teeth is a machloket amongst the poskim if one is permitted to use toothpaste. Chacham Ovadia permitted to use toothpaste because he says that as long as the paste, as long as the thing you're trying to rub on the surface is not meant to be removed right away, that is when one is not permitted. But if you remove it right away, you wash it off, or for instance, if you want it to be absorbed in the body, such a thing would not be under the restriction of memareach, memachek, and therefore it's permitted. This is the svara of the Magen Avraham, of the Mishnah Berurah, of the Aruch HaShulchan. Many poskim bring like that. So therefore he says that since the toothpaste is meant to be removed right away, washed off the teeth, it is permitted. Other poskim didn't agree with him with that, and therefore they say that one can use mouthwash on top of the toothbrush, and that's the way he should brush his teeth. The toothbrush itself, you have to make sure that it's not going to for sure make you bleed when you use it. If you use it, and certainly will make you bleed, or at least close to that, which means almost certainly, that is what we call psik resha or karov lepsik resha, which is not permitted. But if you don't know, sometimes it does cause you to bleed, sometimes it doesn't, then it's permitted. Even more so if you never bleed using toothbrush, it is permitted. When you use the toothbrush afterwards, you shouldn't wash it because that's considered preparing from Shabbat to a weekday, unless you're planning to use the toothbrush again on Shabbat, so then you can wash it because you're preparing from Shabbat to Shabbat. Otherwise, if it's only for after Shabbat, one should not wash it off. Some say you have to designate special toothbrush for Shabbat. You shouldn't use the same toothbrush on the weekday and on Shabbat. Some say that it's needed, some say it's not, but those are the restrictions if one wants to take all the restrictions and apply them if you are careful with all those things that we said before, which means you don't use toothpaste, you make sure that you don't bleed, you make sure not to wash the toothbrush after using, and have a toothbrush, so then you cover all base. Some say that even with that, the minhag already became not to use a toothbrush and brush your teeth at all on Shabbat. If one feels that he really needs to, he needs to refresh his mouth, he needs to clean his mouth, or he needs to protect his mouth, his teeth, so then it is permitted with all these things that we said before. How about using mouthwash? Mouthwash, you have two types. You have those that are very strong, like Listerine, and you have those that are not as strong. It just gives you a good smell on the mouth. So there is in the Shulchan Aruch a isur, a restriction, a prohibition to give a good smell on the clothing. So one is not allowed, for instance, to use perfume on his clothing because it's molid reach. It creates good smell on the clothing, but on the body itself it is permitted. So therefore you can use deodorant on the body itself, and that's the reason the poskim permit also using such mouthwash in the mouth, because it's giving good smell in the mouth itself. But what about refuah? Shulchan Aruch brings down the Shin Kafret that there is a isur of refuah using such a thing that would take away the bad breath. Is that permitted? We have a contradiction in the Shulchan Aruch, which the Iglei Tal and other poskim say that one place that it says that it's asur meant if you take in the mouthwash in order to take away the cause of and the root of the bad breath, which means, let's say, when you use Listerine, which is very strong, to kill the bacteria, as it says on it, it kills 99.9 of bacteria, that would seem to be not permitted. And using other types, a crest, things that are not as strong, which only come to cover up, so to speak, the bad breath that you have, not come to cure the cause of the bad breath, such a thing would be permitted. But Lemaise, when Rebelsky was asked this question, he said that one can use even Listerine because today people use it to refresh and to feel more refreshed and to feel more, it's more like pleasure because they use it every day. On Shabbat, if they don't use it, it's not necessarily for the smell and to take away the cause of the smell, but rather It's to refresh the mouth, feel better. For that, he said, one is allowed to use such Listerine. How about the dental floss? One is permitted to use dental floss if he cut already from before Shabbat the dental floss. If he didn't and forgot, he can use it without cutting it and leave it the way it is in the container until after Shabbat. Then he should remove it. But when he used the dental floss, make sure again that you don't use it harshly on the gums and that would make the gum bleed, but rather use it softly, or if you know that your gums are strong and it wouldn't bleed, so then it is permitted to use that as well.